Ultra Reddit presence, how can you help a friend suffering from depression? Hey, I've had it since I was 14. Medicine caused a reaction that was permanent. I think I know ways to help. A lot of depression is due to focusing on these issues. Don't try to get his or her mind off of it, that just lengthens the problem until their next breakdown. A big issue for me is that nobody else knew that. So my problem was never fixed. And I felt like nobody was listening. Until I finally had the guts to tell my fiancée, back when we just began to date. And she listened. She actually cared for the deeper issues. You need to show you care for these issues as much as they do. And it's not a one-time thing either. You have to push them back up when they want to fall down. We can't do it ourselves sometimes, so we need a friendly push. Keep them from going back down. Be kind but firm about it. Find a logical and friendly conclusion to their issues. My biggest one was loneliness, as at that time I was at a new place and had just lost my best friend to suicide. Depression can make us feel weak and powerless. We lose hope for ourselves. That's why it's so rare for someone to help fully, because they think it's a one-time fix. Yes, I still struggle with issues. That's normal. But I'm not in the dark place I was because she stepped up. She's the light of my life. More beautiful than the stars in the heavens and the angels themselves. And you can be that light for someone else. You're a good friend. So much of depression is driven by the thought that we are alone, easy to abandon, and replaceable. Even just sending memes and jokes is a really great way to remind someone they aren't alone. There are no words to describe how much that makes a difference. Years ago, when I thought about killing myself, I was in a meme exchange thread with my best friend. We were sending Yoda memes back and forth to each other. One of them got to me literally minutes before I was going to swallow a bottle of pills. I laughed so hard that I coughed up the liquor I was drinking, because, had to make sure the pills worked, all over my bed. I didn't kill myself that night because my best friend made me laugh. I've never told him, but he saved my life that night. You may not know it, but you may have saved a life, too. Please, for the sake of everyone on the planet, keep being the awesome person you are. A couple of addenda? As someone who has been dealing with major depression for nearly 10 years and having lost every single friend or acquaintance in the process, I will generalize because I've heard similar stories from others that are in my boat, will often feel like we are a hassle. Even if you tell us that we aren't. Many times. Just go with it. A depressed mind resists help and positive influence no matter how determined we are to let it in. Sometimes, when things get too much, and there's no proper gauge for it, but it will just happen, we might cut off all communication for a few days or so. That does not mean we want to cut anyone in particular off, and phases like that will end. At least that's how I work. That's a personal gripe. In a long-term situation like mine, when life has been taken over by the issue for so long, we might develop the ability to turn every conversation into a problem-talking session. I personally hate myself for it, but no matter how hard I try, I can't shake it off. Aside from super niche interests I share with no one, video games, an interest I also basically share with no one in my vicinity, and maybe my actual real difficulties regarding getting a job or an apartment, my mental problems are all I have. I don't experience anything. I never go out. I barely leave the house. I don't have people I can meet. In an instance like this, if you experience your friend turning that way, try to distract them, help them, whatever you can manage, but don't scold them and especially don't drop them for it. I lost everyone mainly because of this, and I am now in a situation where I basically can't be helped anymore because of it. Try to engineer positive experiences. Sounds like a lot of work, but if it's anything close to my situation, one of the main issues is a severe imbalance between perceived positive and negative experiences having tipped the scale so much that the drive to do anything is just not there, because why try? It will only end badly anyways. If you can make a difference, even with smaller things, over time you might help that person climb back out. Much of depression is heavily impacted by feelings of isolation and loneliness. Don't compound that by bringing it to the forefront when spending time with them. I lost one of my best friends because I liked her and was unable to let go of my feelings, and I pushed a lot of boundaries trying to be closer to her. Eventually she didn't want to be friends anymore, and I don't blame her. That sort of thing is taxing on a relationship. I left our group because it was hard to be around everyone and I thought my friend needed space from me. Anyway, I learned a few lessons in the process. But because of everything, every single one of my other close friends abandoned me when I tried to come back. There's more to the story than this, but all of my depression is because they left me. I felt like I belonged with them and now I'm alone and will never get that back. My life feels completely meaningless. I really love them all. If they never explicitly said the word depression or depressed to describe themselves, don't assume they are, ask if they are, or say you think they might be depressed. It could make them self-conscious about how they act if they think they aren't hiding it well, it can make them feel like you see them differently, it can make them feel like you're intruding, etc. Personally, my day is 100,000 times better when at the end of school/work I'm in a good mood. If I come home in a bad mood, sometimes I spiral from there. So if you want to do something small to help, maybe just make them laugh or tell them their outfit looks nice or whatever. There's not much you can do that isn't small, because you need to keep in mind that depression is a mental illness. Someone truly suffering from it can't be helped by simply having someone to talk to. It sucks seeing someone you care about suffer, but if it's getting worse and they aren't handling it well, they need professional help. I wouldn't suggest that to them though. The few times anyone has ever said that to me, it came off as very offensive. Depression can make people want to isolate themselves. It can be okay for a very short period of time if they can get themselves straightened out. Even if you decide to give them a little bit of space, still offer to be there as much as you can for them. But most of the time, it ends up feeling like a deep hole you just can't climb out of yourself, and want help. Sadly, there are a lot of stigmas about mental illnesses, which causes some to be afraid to ask for help. To start, the best thing you can do is always be there for them. Always offer support and be understanding of their situation, and don't just expect them to snap out of it or just be happy. Depression is often a consequence of somebody's bad life environment/situation, and that can take a long time to change. The biggest thing is just being understanding and supportive, and remembering you can't force them to be happy, only encourage and support them in figuring out what's making them depressed, and how they can change or accept those things. Check on them, and offer to listen. Be present enough to learn the ways their depression manifests, because it's different for everyone. Ask them what they do when they're depressed, and ask what you can do to help. Learn what kind of things will give them even the smallest boost. For me, it's a trip to the bookstore. To them it may be as easy as getting them Taco Bell. Use that as a way to get them to talk a bit, get them feeling like the world is okay for a while. Equally as important is making sure that you take any talk of suicide seriously. If something is off and they've been talking about suicide, call the police. They'd rather do a wellness check than remove a body any day. Even if the person begs you not to, they need help. If they are considering suicide, they need professional help. They might hate you for a while, but in the long run it will help them. If you can get them outside being active, that can possibly help a little. Don't try to force them though. You could try framing it as you need someone to come hiking with you and they'd be doing you a favor. Often people with depression incorrectly think they are a burden on everyone, and making them feel wanted or useful may help them stop feeling that way. Also, I second what a lot of other people are saying about just being there for them when they want to reach out or talk. That's a huge one. Can confirm. I struggle with depression daily, and this cycle aggravates me to no end. Logically I know it's flawed, but that isn't enough for me to stop it. Just intrude. Invite them. Invite yourself over, if appropriate. Ask them for help, etc. Make them feel wanted. Tell them often that they are not a burden. We need to hear that, and don't be afraid to listen and talk with them. You won't make things worse by talking. I had a friend who kept saying he didn't know if he should talk to me because he didn't want to mess with whatever treatment my therapist was providing. I kept saying that I am a smart person and I don't just take everything everyone says to me blindly. Talking to me isn't going to derail what my therapist is doing, but he could never really believe that. He was an overly cautious person in general, but it kind of made me feel like I had an infectious disease and was being quarantined. On the opposite end of the spectrum, don't try to play psychiatrist. Don't try to diagnose them or manage their behaviors. Don't try to use positive or negative reinforcement. I had a friend who I could tell was trying to do this. He decided it wasn't healthy for me to talk about certain topics and that other topics should be encouraged. So, if I mentioned one of the bad topics, he wouldn't respond at all. If I mentioned the good topics, like exercise, I would get a thorough response. It really annoyed me and really made me feel like some sort of crazy freak.
Thank you for watching this fantastic story. Please tap one of the 4 videos on the screen for another amazing top Reddit stories.